Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with this Friday expert and someone who's helped me on a couple of deals, Mr. Stephen Dow from Velocity Mortgage. How you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. And yourself?
I'm doing well, man. Hey, do me a favor, get the marketing thing out of the way so I don't forget, please.
Okay, again, although I work very happily for this channel, or excuse me, for Velocity Mortgage Capital.
You don't work for
I
this
thought you,
channel.
I know. I thought you think that
I
was
don't have
funny.
any head count, man. What are you kidding?
I thought you'd think that was funny.
That was
So,
funny, yeah.
although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel are that of my own.
Hilarious.
So let's get it going, brother. I tried to throw that in just to see if you were paying attention.
You try to see if I'm paying attention, or I just tune out when you're talking about marketing. Oh, that's hilarious. Anyways, what I want to do is I want to talk about a phrase we teased in episode 1, because I think it's what makes the non-QM space different. I think this is true for the non-QM space. Sure. The mortgage industry in general, my opinion, I don't want to put words in your mouth, has become very automated. Right. And what that means is you either fit in the box or you don't. And in a world that we're in today, if you're out of the box, that means no bueno, no good.
Right.
Non-QM has always been there to help with the deal, right? You evaluate the deal. You're not looking for 7 check marks and a certain number, and then it just automatically spits out a yes answer. In fact, there is, for most of non-QM lenders, I don't even think there is an automated system. It's file by file, deal by deal. Do I have that right? Or maybe there is some automation?
Well, I mean, there is a certain amount of initial framework that you have to, there's like hard line in the sand as far as certain guidelines. But beyond that, much more flexible in accommodating versus conventional financing. Obviously, it's got to be a property type that we can lend on.
Oh, that's good. Let's talk about that. So let's do it little by little, right? So for example, at Velocity, not that non-QM doesn't do this, but at Velocity, you don't lend on hotels, correct?
Correct. No hotels
or owner
no gas stations, no owner occupied residential due to Dodd-Frank, nothing too specialized in the sense of, on the commercial side, no bowling alleys, no movie theaters, no vacant land, no parking lots, no mobile homes, no manufactured homes.
So you do have you have a lending box. It says,
we do. We have somewhat of a box because that's what Wall Street has, an appetite for.
Right.
Everything else has got too much hair on it, such as the way of churches.
Let's hit that a little bit too, because I don't know that a lot of people realize this. The non-QM space, a lot like big banks. I talked about Wells Fargo and Bank of America, my experience in episode 1. A lot of them are just packaging the loans, getting them off their books and selling them to quote unquote Wall Street. Non-QM is essentially the same. You basically have a customer. They're buying these mortgages. They're buying them at some rate, at some discount. And you have basically gone to your customer and said, what's the menu that you want to buy? So you have a menu and you also have what's off menu. So it makes perfect sense.
Right. So again, and based upon that menu, typically there's a certain amount of performance expected for that particular, product. And so if the performance is there, even though sometimes it doesn't meet certain, initial guidelines, but again, utilizing that term makes sense lender, we look at other compensating factors that typically are able to overlook those discrepancies, right? For example, maybe, less experienced investor, first time, things of that nature, will reduce our equity positions as far as max LTV. So we expect a larger amount down. However, in addition to that, if say you don't have the greatest FICO score, we can still work with you if you maybe got 6 or more months of reserves after your down payment. So in our eyes, if something should happen, you got enough money to pay for not only at least 3 months of mortgage payments, but also enough money to pay for somebody who knows what they're doing to get you out of whatever that situation is. So makes sense lending in certain aspects, I think is going to be very helpful in this kind of, tighter lending environment. Because like you said, there's, banks are changing their guidelines. It's going to be harder on the conventional side. And I'm sure it already is, Fannie and Freddie are making that evident as far as
certainly harder for investors.
Agree.
Yeah.
I kind of saw this coming.
The other thing I want to mention, again, this is just my experience. This is not Steven saying this. So marketing, go away.
Right.
I do believe that there are some hard money lenders, hard money, not non-QM, hard money, where they're
Right.
trying to get the building at a discount, right? They
Agreed.
have such egregious terms. They're doing so high LTV, like they do 90%, and they're getting, basically they're trying to get the building at 90% because they're lending to someone. They basically are doing loans at such a rate. They probably, and I know this for a fact, some of them do have an expectation. Hey, we're going to lose 3 out of 10 or 3 out of 20 or whatever the number is. And that's kind of their playbook, right? We're going to get some assets on the cheap. Non-QM lenders, because you're selling to Wall Street. Wall Street wants these loans. Wall Street doesn't want the property. Hence 35% down or 25% down, right? All your loans have real skin in the game on purpose. So if you are one of those borrowers out there that don't have any money and don't have any experience, sorry, again, one of your buyers not ready. Don't come here. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
But I mean, you shouldn't want to lend to somebody like that because it's just setting them up for failure. You know what I mean? And so
it's just
there's
a terrible
amount of
business
responsible lending, but I think that's where these guidelines are in place to kind of help protect the consumer from themselves almost. You know what I'm saying? Because if somebody's spinning them a certain, perspective on, oh no, you should buy this thing and low amount down and don't worry, and it'll keep appreciating, and in a year you can refinance and pull the equity out. And that was kind of, somewhat of the spin back in the days, as far as I think, right before the mortgage meltdown, right before the 06, 07, 08. That was kind of the game plan for most, people buying with no skin in the game, that the appreciation kept going up. And so that small window, that strategy kind of looked like it would work, but then when stuff goes opposite way, now, and that's why people just defaulted, but when you got skin in the game, that's what makes our world go round, where we found that the default rate goes down, much lower once you get above 30%, skin in the game. 35, I mean, very little to like almost. I mean, our default rate is actually better than full doc Fannie Freddie loans.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing when you actually have real skin in the game. What happens? It's shocking. Oh, yeah, what happens. Shocking. Oh my God.
You become accountable. You know what I mean? You count. You look at your money more carefully.
That's crazy.
Anyway, agreed. I think the flexibility, and again, Velocity aren't going to be everything to everybody.
No.
And agreed that the whole non-QM space is going to be very helpful, and it has, been continued to be helpful in the investors, eye. So 100% agreed with you.
The other thing I love
made for that.
Yeah. The other thing I like is you can help facilitate transactions that I think are common. For example, you're an investor, you're in a market, you bump into someone, or you find a seller who wants to sell 4 duplexes, right?
Right.
It's not going to fit into a traditional box. You're going to have to go get 4 loans. You're going to have to do this, that, the other, where you can provide what's called a portfolio or a blanket loan. And it's very standard. It's not an exception. And I say this as somebody who has tried to do them in the past with a big bank. The mortgage broker or agent or whatever they're called sitting across the table wants to say yes. And they've told me this. And then after 45 days of wasting my time, and it just doesn't happen. They're not built for it. It's
no.
That's why Make Sense Lender. When you told me that phrase like 6 months ago, I'm like, that's what you are, right? You look at the deal, right? So you want to buy 4 plexes from someone, you're like, done, no problem. As long as they're above this and that, they're not, you got some criteria, but it's awesome. Other things, again, I keep talking about 30-year money on commercial product, right? Mixed use, big apartments, little apartments.
And actually, another thing I don't know if we talked about, but I thought would be interesting. We do allow up to a 90% CLTV, or combined loan to value. So that means that if I can go up to a maximum of 75% LTV on whatever, on one of our products, we would allow the seller, if they're able and willing, to carry, say, a 15% second, so that the buyer just has to come in with 10%. So that does give you a little bit more flexibility.
This is a new thing. Let's make that video number 3, because I think that is going to be one that is very exciting. We'll do some examples. Before we do that, if somebody wanted to reach out to you as a Make Sense Lender and see if you can help them, how would they do that?
Just SDAO at velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, just put the acronym ORAAT, which stands for one rental at a time. In the body of the email, brief description of what you're looking for, maybe property type, at the very least city and state, to make sure that we land in that area, mid-FICO score, best number to reach you at. Within 24 to 48 hours, I'll be in touch.
There you go. Thanks, buddy.